Okay, all you.
Alright. Hello everybody, I am Jaxler. This is Spongebob's Truth or Square Any %. I'll do three. Let's get this train wreck started on 3, 2, 1, go. So, when you're ready. 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, so this game is a 3D platformer made in 2009 by Heavy Iron Studios. They're actually the same people who worked on Disney Infinity. This game released on Xbox 360 and Wii, and we're going to be doing this run on Xbox 360 today to save about 3 minutes in loading times over the Wii version. Also, with the Wii version, it runs in 30 FPS, and if you don't have the right controller, you have to play with motion controls, which is not ideal for a speedrun. So for this first level, I'm going to be looking for the robots to group together in pairs. This way I can hit them all with one swing. It looks like we might have one here. I missed it. Alright, he's going to smack me. Yep, that happened. That's a pattern that I get sometimes. It's a little frustrating. But ideally, getting these robots together in groups allows us to hit them all together with one swing, which is just more efficient. I was close there, but I didn't quite get one. Normally you can move your character in order to manipulate the robots. But at the beginning of this fight, the robots have time to move before you're close enough to be able to manipulate them. So unfortunately, we can't do too much to control the randomness, but so for this fight, I'm just going to keep walking straight forward, and these guys up front are going to walk right in front of me and line up for a nice double. And then I kind of have to monitor. Okay, looks like guys in the back are going to line up just fine. Get over here. Ah, perfect. So we got another double up here. I'm going to turn around, grab the last one. I'm going to do a small shortcut by jumping onto this plank. Gonna walk a little to the left and then jump up the plank up to the cliff. Going to jump onto this tiki. Gonna set up for a trick called tiki jump. Normally we have to do this small little platforming sequence, but if I time this jump right, I can skip it. Nope. Not a big deal. A little bit tricky. There we go. Okay, so that saves about 30-40 seconds. Yeah, so the general theme of this run is there's gonna be some platforming segment that I don't really feel like doing, and I'm just gonna skip it. Yeah, so gonna ride through it this way. That trick can actually be really easily normally, but unfortunately we unlock the horizontal glide move, the spin, later into the run, so we can't trivialize it, unfortunately. Coming through this cog section, just keep your eye on Patrick on that jar for a sec. And poof, he's gone. Even though we can just walk at a normal speed, the developers never intended for us to go that fast, so they just kind of make them poof. It's really silly. So coming up, there's 2 really big, long platforming segments, and I'm going to skip by moving some barrels to use as platforms to boost myself out of the area. So I'm going to get to this barrel over here and knock it over on its side, and then I'm going to slowly push it up towards this rock. Oh, come on, stop rolling. Okay, I need to kill these guys just to be safe. Oh, no, you don't. Oh, that's really bad. Oh, he broke it. Oh, that's really bad. Oh, that's really bad. Okay, let's see if I can find another barrel to use. Okay, that's super unfortunate. That, like, never happens, so... luckily, there's a couple other barrels over here that we can use as backup, so... Super backup strats right now. They broke my other backup barrel, too, so I'm just gonna roll this guy over. And we're gonna attempt to... This is the easier one, too. We've got another barrel skip coming up. But we're gonna get this guy over here and then use him as a platform. There we go. Sorry about that. Sometimes that happens. So this next barrel, if that didn't look, that looked way worse than it actually is. This barrel is actually pretty hard because we need it to stand upright. So in order to get the height, we need to skip this cave. So I'm gonna free this barrel, knock it over on its side, and I'm gonna try to. Come on now. I'm gonna try to roll it towards this wall, please. Yeah, barrel physics are terrible in this game. I'm gonna try to roll it off the wall so it stands up. Oh, come on. Wow, this game absolutely hates me today. Please. Okay, I can try to save this. There we go. So I'm gonna stand that barrel up and then jump off the cliff. There we go.
First try.
First try. So that didn't, unfortunately, first barrel didn't go too well, but whatever. Second one was pretty good. Little skip right here, gonna jump along the side of this rail, which skips having to go through the corkscrew of the slide here. And then we got this fight coming up. So we've been developing a setup for a while for this fight, because normally it's random. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hit this front guy, then go to the left, and then do like a circle motion. This hopefully spawns them in some sort of more favorable pattern, so that I'm continuously hitting robots. And if I do this right, I can actually set up for a 2-cycle in this fight where I only have to use this one additional hammer power-up. Looks like we're a little bit slow. Oh, gosh dang it. Yeah, that can happen sometimes. The game just refuses to spawn in robots. So, unfortunately, we're not going to get the 2-cycle, but we were only 1 robot away, so that was pretty good. Oh, come on. Sometimes when you slam an enemy, it'll do a weird hit stun animation and just won't take damage. It's ridiculous. So yeah, so we finished the level, and that's going to grant us a happiness object. And so those kind of mark our progress throughout the game. So the key thing to note with that is that grabbing that object is what triggers the level to end. That piece of information is going to be more important once we get into some of the later levels of the game. Also, all of the loading screens in this game have trivia on them. So if you're at home, I would highly suggest playing along with the trivia and then get extremely frustrated as the trivia makes absolutely no sense. Coming into Kelp Forest, this level is a pretty big run killer. I'm going to be going for a strat at the very beginning. If I don't get it, it's fine. It only saves about 30 to 40 seconds. Not a terribly big deal. I'll just play the fight normally. So, in this level, we get the spin move now, which is going to open up a lot of possibilities for skips in the next coming level. So this fight, I'm going to try to go for a trick called Hammer Boost. I'm going to try to use these robots to let me skip the fight. But I'm going to focus so I can work on this setup. So I need a very specific setup to get this to work. Okay, this might work. Nice, first try. Okay, so the way that works is when a robot, when a hammer bot is doing its swing, its hitbox, for a small moment, extends upward. And if you get Spongebob stuck above them while they're in that, motion, you can actually boost Spongebob up a little bit, and that's enough to get over that ledge. So again, doing some more, lining up more doubles so I can fight through the combat more efficiently. I'm going to do another trick with the spin move called spin boosting. These spinners are going to come at me. I'm going to jump and spin at them right as they're about to hit me, and oh, missed it. It's a tight window. Gosh darn it. There we go. And that just gives me a ridiculous amount of height and lets me skip the second half of that fight. We're going to come through along here. You might have noticed me do it earlier a little bit, but I'm going to do the thing called an animation cancel, where I slam into a wall while hitting a button. That causes a faster slam animation to play instead of the full animation, which only saves like a couple tenths of a second, but it's worth going for in such a small and optimized category. So we just got buff. We're going to set up for another spin boost right here, which is going to skip that little platforming segment, and then we're going to get through to the next segment. So let's talk about Sponge Buff, because I haven't yet. So the way that this power-up works is that your base run speed is increased, and you deal double damage on all of your attacks. So while I have this form, I'm going to be doing this short hop spin motion in order to go even faster, because apparently that's a thing. Gonna play a little safe here. There's a crazy strat you can do where you can momentum boost off the switch and go to the right, but but taking damage while in this form causes you to lose it. And there's only 1 or 2 backups. Sometimes not even a backup in a level, so you have to play very careful and essentially damageless in some of the later segments of the run in order to play optimally. So, doing some more movement here. Vertical movement's kind of cool with the short hop spinning movement. So, again, trying to make sure that I don't take damage here. Gonna do what we consider the hardest spin boost in the run. Going to try to stand here. This will cause the robot to, get pushed over there. Get another spin boost up there, and then activate the challenge. Uh-oh, I fell down. Don't worry, I can back this up. Boom. So normally you can just jump from the top up of there, but I accidentally fell down. But luckily there's another big spin bot. Those are actually harder to spin boost off of because they're so big and their hitbox is pretty deceptive. So another animation cancel on that fence there just lets me start walking a little bit sooner. I'm going to go for a swag strat called gate skip. Let's see if I get it. Nice, I got it. That saves a second, but it looks super cool, so I always go for it. Normally you need that power-up I just bypassed to get through these flowers, but they put enough of a gap between each of them that you can just walk between them. It's really silly. Going to go for the fast strat for this spin boost. Nice, I got it. Those are all the spin boosts. So cool. That one's really scary because that hammer bot can just snipe you from off screen. So now that I have Spongebob carried into this boss fight, I can actually 2-cycle him because I deal double damage, and he only has 3 points of health. So I'm going to lure him to the wall to stop him attacking early. Gonna bait him over towards this next wall because he's programmed to actually stop attacking once he hits a wall. So I'm just gonna keep luring him into walls until he dies. By the way, quick shoutouts to the Beatles for inspiring the design behind this boss. And then I'm actually going to stand right where the chest for the happiness object spawns. That way the chest will actually rise me up into the object and collect it as soon as I have control over Spongebob. So let's see if my positioning was correct. This looks good. Oh, I think, yeah, I was a little too far forward, so unfortunately I don't get to save any frames here. But yeah, that's going to be the end of Kelp Forest. That was pretty good. Thank you. Alright, more trivia on these loading screens.
Kazoo.
Ooh.
Definitely a saxophone. Got it.
Ooh, you're wrong.
Damn it.
Bodied. So fun fact about those loading screens is exclusive to the Xbox 360 version, you actually have to press A to reveal the trivia early. Otherwise, it will delay the end of the loading screen by up to 5 seconds if you don't. So I actually have to cut you guys off on trivia, which is kind of unfortunate, but not too big of a deal. So we're going into the first boss fight of the run, ending Act 1, which is Robo-Patrick. I'm going to start by grabbing this buff power-up here, and I'm going to lure him from left to right. In order, so A, he doesn't hit me, and B, I can be as close as he can when he becomes vulnerable. So I'm going to hit him like that, hit him in the backside. And then I'm going to go right where the next, these waves of robots are going to spawn. I was a little far away, which is unfortunate. And I'm doing more short hop spins in order to get to the robots as fast as possible. That was okay. Now we're going into phase 2. Same principle applies. I'm just going to be luring from left to right. And doing that also gets me into a good position, so where I have more time to get ready for the next wave of robots. Go. Sometimes that spinner can actually spawn a little bit closer to you, and where he wanders can actually save or lose you like a second and a half, but not really a big deal as far as a marathon goes. So again, same thing, last phase. Not too much going on here. Relatively chill part of the run. Which is nice, because the next segments of the run are absolutely insane, so I kind of need the break here. And there's Robopat. Alright, not too bad. So he's going to start crying like a little baby. And then we're going to get a hot dog with some sort of green meat. I hesitate to even call it meat. I'm not sure exactly what's contained in that hot dog. But I'm just going to ignore it. I'm just going to assume it's part of the lore. Speaking of the lore, this game basically relives SpongeBob's memories so he can find where he remember where he left the Krabby Patty formula. It's based off a TV special that released around 2009, and also around the time that THQ was closing its stores. So that's a lot of the reason why we can do all this stuff. Also, best voice line in the game right here.
Jiggle me handles, SpongeBob. Are you starting a party without me?
Yeah. Fun fact, because apparently Mr. Krabs' voice actor is very expensive to hire, they didn't have it in the budget to hire anyone else. So they just hired someone else to do the voice role for this game, and it sounds really bad, and it's funny. So we get a new move here called the Cannon Shot. What this allows us to do is shoot a projectile attack in order to hit some switches. In some of the other categories of this game, where there's more combat, it's one of the best combat moves in the game because it has a high rate of fire and very little startup and cooldown. So it allows us to just murder enemies if we don't have Spongebob on us. But unfortunately, we don't get to see that too much. We're just going to use it for its more casual purposes. So this first segment is a bit of an auto-scroller. Okay, good. So that spinner robot can actually reflect your shot, and you have to kill him if he gets in your way. He'll just not budge. So I got kind of lucky there. Normally he's not big of a deal, but I once lost a really good pace run to that. For reference, my PB is 29:08, which is world record for this game. A funny thing about that button, you actually have to wait for the bus to stop. If you hit the button early, it will actually cause the bus to just pause there for 3 or 4 seconds. So it's actually faster to go slower, which is interesting. It probably bugs a lot of people, but I don't mind. It's kind of cool. Alright, try not to take too much damage here. I don't necessarily like to jump over these steam geysers because they have really misleading hitboxes. Alright, so this is where things get crazy. I'm going to jump to the pier early and then jump around the right side of it. That skips a 5-second cutscene. And then I'm going to set up for a trick where I jump off of these propellers. And then that propels me over an invisible wall and lets me skip that whole segment. Okay, so I got that one first try. Sick. So I'm going to go for a trick called Tub Skip. It's a 7-second trick that was found by a guy named Zuzer about a month ago. Hopefully I'll get it first try. It can be a little tricky, but I was getting it in practice, so I'm going to go for it. So this rock up over here only has an invisible wall around it, so I'm just going to go around the backside where there's no collision. And then I'm going to jump to this rock that also has collision, and then just jump around the side, and that skips a sponge filling up with water segment that's really slow. Also avoids more Mr. Krabs dialogue. I'm actually going to do this part of the challenge, which keeps the propeller down, which allows me to jump off this one onto a lamppost, and then over another invisible wall, which lets me skip that last segment. So, dang, that was pretty good. Cool. Another fight over here. We're gonna grab the Squidward power-up. This thing's absolutely busted. He attacks super fast, and normally the spinner enemies are immune to projectile attacks, but he attacks so fast that it just bypasses the immunity entirely. You're also invincible, so whenever we have the chance in some of the other categories, we will always pick Squidward. He's absolutely broken. So those were the 3 really heavy-hitting skips of this segment. Gonna jump over here. I also purposely didn't aim at this Oh, I missed the jump. Gosh darn it. You can jump off of that tiki to avoid jumping in the quicksand, which can sometimes slow you down. So this is gonna spawn this track. Gonna jump, okay, I'll go for the backup. Gonna jump off this pipe, which allows me to jump to a later section of the track. And then we're coming into the last little segment. Normally this bumper thing is on a set cycle, but if I ricochet it off the wrong side, nice, I got one of them. Let's see if I can get the other one. Okay, we got one of them, so that's pretty good. The first one is harder to get, so I'm used to getting the second one off a different cycle. So yeah, there we go. That's the happiness object. So sick. Okay. Yeah, that segment's very scary because you have all 3 of those tricks in a row, and you have to get them first try, or else you lose like a boatload of time. Like you'll just take a dip in the water and you'll die. So yeah, that was pretty good. Now we're going into the Santa level, which is actually based off of the Christmas special, but it takes place in the Krusty Krab freezer for some reason, mainly because of their rushed deadline for the TV special. They had to reuse a bunch of assets, so a lot of the textures and almost all of the music in this game are ripped from previous Spongebob games that Heavy Irons worked on. So in fact, the song for this level is ripped from Goo Lagoon from Battle for Bikini Bottom. So I'm gonna kill this guy, and I'm gonna jump off these ice cubes, and then onto these pillars, which for some reason have collision. This lets me go out of bounds, and so I'm gonna try to navigate semi-blind on sort of some seams of collision that extend out of bounds. And then I'm gonna come as far as I can over here. and then I'm gonna grab that object, and that's the end of the level. So, the reason that works is because they like to store all of the objects, happiness objects for the game, underneath the map. So when they spawn in at the end of the level, they don't cause like a lag spike when you just say poof, appear. And like I mentioned earlier, collecting the object is what triggers the end level sequence. So all we do is go out of bounds and collect it, and that tricks the game into finishing the level. Because it's like, oh, you can only get the object once you've killed the mini-boss of the level. But in fact, it's just sitting there out of bounds. There's also 2 other objects for the level in there. Most platforming levels have 3 objects. 1 you get for beating the main level, and 2 you get on revisit. But we only collect those in other categories. So we're hopping into Murmelair right now. So I'm going to hold up during the cutscene to turn around. Go back towards this segment. Going to jump up this rock. Going to jump towards this rail. And that's the end of the level. So for whatever reason, this is like the one exception to the rule I just put up. There's a trigger behind that door that causes the level to end. So we just go out of bounds and end the level instantly. I think the IL world record for that level is 9 seconds. But that's based off of IL timing. So we're going to go to the storybook over here, which lets us replay levels. And we're going to go back to Murmelair. And what we're essentially going to do in this phase of the run is repeat that trick about 5 or 6 more times. And the reason we do that is the way that this game is programmed is that when you collect a end level happiness object, or for whatever reason go through that trigger, it ups a count in the game's memory that keeps track of SpongeBob's progress in the story. And whenever we do this, because the developers never intended for us to do this, it just ups the count by 1. So what this does to the game is it tricks the game into thinking that we've beaten levels that we actually haven't. So eventually, if we loop this trick enough times, we've progressed the game far enough in code that it will spawn Patrick in to take us to the final level. So doing this trick saves us about half an hour. Oh my goodness. Almost warped to the wrong level there. Yeah, oof. Doing this trick saves us about 30 minutes. It skips basically all of Murmelair, which is a really long level, another boss fight, and 2 like 10-minute levels in a casual playthrough. So this saves an enormous amount of time. So while I'm doing this trick, I'd just like to shout out a couple of people. First of all, I'd like to shout out Cole. Not only did he find this trick, but he also found like every other trick that's basically foundational to this and the other categories. So without him, I wouldn't be here, and any of the other people who play this game would not have even given this a chance. So huge shout outs to him. I'd also like to shout out Tedious, who is another top level runner of this game, who's just been very supportive of me and also been helping me to strat hunt to optimize this category. And just thanks to the Truth or Square Discord for being a really nice group of people and very supportive. So yeah, we can chill out for a little bit while we're doing the last couple of phases. I'm actually not keeping track in my head how many I have to do. There's actually a specific visual cue when you load into the hub world that will clue you in that you have 1 more to go. So I'm just sort of relying on that cue right now. Alright, so now I spawn in like the back corner here. That's when I know that I have 1 more loop of the level to do. So 1 more time of this, and then we're going to be heading into the final boss here. So yeah, a lot of evil getting repeated every level here. Luckily, they have their original voice actors. So that was a really good Murmelair segment. Did not drop a single Murmelair out of bounds, which is really solid for me, because I almost always
mess one of those up while trying to talk. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, so now after this loading screen, we're going to be heading into the final boss sequence. So there's Patrick. He's got an exclamation point over his head, which means we can go to the final level. So let's talk about Roboplankton. So he's the final boss. Half of the this fight is split up into two segments: rooftop segments and inner core segments. The rooftop segments are sort of auto-scrollers with a couple of robot waves in between. So there's not too much I can do to speed up there. The key thing to going fast in this fight is, again, making sure that I maintain my buff power up for as much as possible so I can speed up later robot fights. Yeah.
Nothing I can do to speed up Roboplank to get up here. I'm gonna set myself up so that I'm right where this robot's the first one's gonna spawn, so I can set up for a double.
Pretty good. Yeah, so the key thing here is to not fall, because if you fall, it reloads the phase and you have to do the whole thing over, and it's really slow. Yeah, so he's going to be super intimidating. He's just going to shoot at us, but kind of immune to those. So he's going to slam down at us. I'm going to bait it out. Oh, come on. Okay, there we go. Even if you get hit, you can still attack him and deal. It's kind of silly. And then we're going to enter the core. So I'm going to be picking up a buff power up here, and then we have to destroy 3 generators and then attack the heart.
Because, of course, like, robots have hearts in the Spongebob universe. I don't know. I don't think Plankton thought through this very well.
So the big thing to be careful of is making sure that these hammer bots don't nail me, because they can... okay, good, we avoided him. That's the phase we want to avoid getting hit. They have the more powerful late game robots have insane range and very quick attacks, so it can be really scary. Because even if you can get hit during the transitioning cutscene and still lose your buff. It's kind of ridiculous. So now that we have buff here, we're just gonna like rip through all these enemies once he decides to spawn them in. Be careful here. Oh, I lost my buff. Okay. That's fine. Not too big of a deal. Each core phase has a backup buff power up. So I'll just grab another buff power up once I load in. Key thing was making sure I got that rooftop fight done, because otherwise that fight is super slow. Okay, just making sure I get that one first because it's closest, then we'll pick up the buff power up. Uh-oh, Hammerbot's over there. Please don't put me through the floor again. Okay, he's dead. He put me through the floor in a marathon once, and it was I had to reload. It was kind of ridiculous. The spinner bots, if you leave them alive, they can also deal damage to the core, which is kind of hilarious. But luckily for us in this rooftop segment, we not only get, for some reason, an extra buff power up, but also for whatever reason, when you enter only on 360, when you enter the final core phase, they remove any buff power up that you have. So, as long as I get through this without basically dying, I'm fine. So I'm going to wait here because there's actually an invisible geyser that will nail you.
If you try to... Yep, it nailed me too. Again, not a big deal because I don't need it. Because it would just take it away anyway, so... The nice thing is that getting damage while in buff form actually doesn't put you in hit stun. so you can use it to kind of tank a hit if you need to, which is really nice because if you get hit by that in normal Bob form, you just fall and you can't recover. Oh yeah, I forgot. He goes for 4 shots this time. We're gonna lure him over again. And we'll go into the last phase. Alright, here we go. So alright, so one more buff back up over here. I'm gonna grab it just to make these last generator kills a little bit faster. And more short hop spins to get over to the last one in time. And time's coming up soon. Time. What was my time?
30:26.
Dang, that's really good. Sick. Yeah.
If it weren't for that one barrel.
Yeah, if it weren't for that one barrel, that probably would have been a 29, which is ridiculous for a marathon run. Yeah, that is SpongeBob's Truth or Square. This is a really easy game to pick up. So if you're at all interested at playing this game, we have a bunch of resources for learning this game. You can go to speedrun.com/SBTOS, and I have an any percent tutorial up there. We have our own Discord group. There's never been a better time to get into this game. It's really easy to pick up, a lot of backup strats you can go for. You don't have to even go for those barrels that I kept messing up on. Yeah, that's all I've got. Thank you guys for having me. I think we have Ario of Sorrow up next. Stay tuned.
Stop swimming so fast!